Hello again. This is Trenton, and I'm just going to tell you about my journey through chess and how I got into this game. Um, One of the underlying themes is that chess can be lonely sometimes when other people don't share your interests. So I'm going to give you how I rose, how I stagnated, some of the good and some of the bad, and why I'm still playing. So my introduction to chess started with my grandpa. So there he is. He taught me how to play chess when I was about 7 years old, and then he beat me in about 11 moves because I didn't know what I was doing. So I pretended to be a good sport about it. I shook his hand, I smiled, but really on the inside I was furious. I just didn't want him to know I was being a baby. So in response, I practiced against chess titans and I set it to level 10. I lost 30 times, but ultimately I won. I had 2 draws in there as well. Once I knew I was ready to face Grandpa, I set the chessboard up at the dining room table, and then I waited for him to come in. Once he did come in, I said, "Hello, Grandpa, would you care for a game of chess?" He agreed, and ultimately I managed to defeat him. So when I did, I jumped up, I started yelling, "I did it, I did it, I did it!" Like I was pretty thrilled when I finally did that because I was practicing for that game for months and I finally got it. So one of my earlier rivals was my sister. She had a slight interest in chess, but she wanted to prove something to me, so she really kept playing against me. She challenged me again and again, but eventually she gave up after about 10 times. What she didn't realize is that I had a lot of practice against the computer already, so there was already a significant gap developing in our skills. So she needed to practice more games against the computer to get caught up at that point. So my younger sister, she only cares about chess because the knights are shaped like horses because she's a vet. She just loves animals. Other than that, chess doesn't really matter to her. So once my family gave up, I stagnated and I had no more opponents. So that was the first wave of loneliness. The only really opponent I knew about was the computer at the time. So I practiced it from time to time, but I didn't really have much to do beyond that. So my so I stagnated until about the 6th grade, where I finally had my first decent opponent in a long time. This is where I was a little bit arrogant because I had a basic understanding of chess. I sort of know the strategies, but then it makes you think like you're better than the total beginners, so you don't realize that you have a whole bunch yet to learn. So eventually, my arrogance got the better of me, and it caused me to overlook a back rank mate. So it's kind of like this. The king is suffocated by his own pawns because he doesn't have any room to move the king. So he's just dead along the back rank. So that's something you really have to look out for. Um, Eventually, I did defeat my opponent, but I have been a much humbler chess player ever since then. Um, because I understood how my arrogance could backfire and it could lead to embarrassing losses like those. So for the most part, I stagnated all the way until high school, and that's when the first Walnut Hills Chess Club opened up. So that's when I had some good rivals like Kyle and Haiku. So let me see. I played them multiple times. Like my games against Haiku, like it lasted 3 weeks. We played like some really intense games, like that would go on for weeks and weeks at a time. We'd have to take pictures and come back. So eventually, okay. Eventually I defeated my rivals, and they graduated, so I didn't really see any more of them. During that time, I started my first LeeChess.org account, and from there, I was just gradually raising my rating across time. So this was the first time I got introduced to actual chess club and actual chess community, so I could start growing more. So my first tournament happened when Mr. Chuck Tai introduced me to tournaments because he saw that I was a really good player and I was defeating a lot of the kids in chess club. So he introduced me to tournaments, and at first I felt discouraged because I lost my first 2 games. Well, I was kind of nervous in my first tournament, so I was just making all kinds of mistakes. And then finally, in rounds 3 and 4, I did do better, and I won those last 2 games. So I ended up in about the middle, so I was going against people rated between 500 and 900. I came out at about 700 after my first couple of tournaments or so. And then after this, I started practicing chess a lot more seriously. So I trained mostly on leadchess.org and I gradually raised my rating over time. So I started like way back in like, I think it was 2015 it was, and then I was rated around 1700 back then, and then I slowly got my rating up to about 2200 or 2300 around there. So slowly raised my rating across time. During this time I studied many courses like Remote Chess Academy. We had from Remote Chess Academy. They have courses like Calculate Till Mate, the Grandmaster's Opening Laboratory 2. Those are two of the best courses I found on their website. They also have several free courses on YouTube. They have like Breaking Stereotypes, The Secrets of Strong Players, like part 1 and 2. So there's all kinds of free lessons they have there, and while I was studying all those courses, I competed in multiple tournaments around Ohio, both the Scholastic Series and in real tournaments for money. So all of that practice, all of those tournaments, and then my rating jumped from about 700 to 1600 pretty fast. It was in about 2 years that happened. So if you study all those courses, you study a whole bunch of free lessons, you studied like endgame courses, planning courses, you study all this stuff. If you really do that for like a couple years, you can jump your rating by 1,000 points, definitely. So this is what ultimately allowed me to make history. In my junior year, I was the first student in the history of Walnut Hills to win the entire Scholastic Series, and I won by a big margin because I constantly won all 5 games at each tournament. So I was just really, well, I was really crushing the competition there. So I was so far ahead that they couldn't catch up. I won a whole bunch of medals along the way. I won a couple trophies too, and I won some money from all the other tournaments I was doing. And at the end of that, I ended up being pretty far ahead of the rest of the competition. So I was rated about 1600, and the closest competition there was 1400. So I was really outperforming them. So since I was so far ahead, eventually I just stopped playing in them because they weren't really a huge challenge anymore. Okay. This is where we get to the second phase of loneliness. So the dark side of chess comes back when you realize glory isn't everything, because you get the trophy, you get the medal, you have a moment where people are cheering for you, but in the long run, it can create another wave of loneliness if other people aren't as strong as you, they can't compete as well, they aren't as interested in chess as you. So when other people don't share your interests, you start to stagnate again. So the Walnut Hills Chess Club was afraid of my reputation because they heard of all the tournaments I've won and how I've made history, and they didn't really want to challenge me because of that. There were no real close rivals. I played like Krishna and Mr. Shaw, but I beat them every time. So they didn't play in tournaments as seriously as I did, so I was pretty far ahead of them too. So I quit playing in the Scholastic Series, and I wanted to share some of the glory with younger players because I know how happy the kids get when they get a trophy or they get a medal. So I felt like, well, maybe they would be happier if I didn't like go in and just win every time, because I already did that anyway. So eventually I went back once to represent my school in my senior year, and it looked like the children were pretty inspired by my accomplishments. They heard of all the money I've won, and then like the tournament director, he told them how I beat him in a chess tournament, and then I won like I won some money from that too. So the kids were pretty interested, inspired, and scared at the same time because they knew I played in tournaments for money. But I think they were inspired by my accomplishments, and it helped them to later move on to get even better at chess themselves. So I hope I inspired them to do that. So since I was pretty much far ahead of the rest of the competition in chess club, that's when I started becoming a chess teacher. I started instructing people in chess club, like people who were bringing out the rooks too early. They were developing their knights to the edge of the board. They weren't. They were making all kinds of premature pawn breaks and attacks. So I started instructing on them, telling their mistakes. I played a couple of practice games with some of the weaker opponents there. I went back through the games with them and pointed out along the way what I was thinking. And a lot of times the student told me that they learned more about chess in that one lesson I gave them than they ever did in their entire life. So I gave them a pretty detailed analysis of each of their mistakes and all these strategic ideas I was using. Sometimes there were a couple of 7th graders who would get arrogant like I did back in the 6th grade. So they feel like they get a hold of the game, they start getting very materialistic. They're constantly capturing pieces instead of trying to checkmate the opponent's king, and it can lead to gloating. So that's when I did play some of the more arrogant kids. It's because I wanted to introduce them to a higher level of chess so that they know that there's a lot more to chess that they don't know. So this would make them more humble in the long run. It would help them learn more in the long run. It would make them more cautious as a chess player. And this really would change who they are as a human being as well once you eventually realize how your hubris backfires on you. So I hope I helped improve some of those 7th graders so they became more open to what they can learn later on in chess and maybe in life in general. Like if we start thinking we're better than everybody, we know it all, but there's a lot we don't know, and we got to be open to that. Even Garry Kasparov, he says there's a lot in chess he doesn't know, and he's never going to know everything. So we need to be more humble and understand that we need to embrace not knowing, not just pretend that we know. So my best student was a young 7th grader named Ben. He asked me a lot of questions there. He made a whole bunch of mistakes. He wanted to figure out what my strategy was, so he was asking a lot of questions constantly. And then he was pretty enthusiastic to apply what he learned in a lot of chess tournaments as well. So I'm glad that he used a lot of what I taught him to win tournaments as well. This is what led us to making history again. So he won a whole bunch of tournaments, and then this is when we started forming the first chess team in Walnut Hills. So we had Ben, Krishna, myself. Well, actually, not myself. We had a couple of other kids. It's because my rating was too far ahead of everyone else, so I couldn't play in the same tournaments as them. So they had to form the first chess team without me. I had to play in a different division. So first we had a simul against Grandmaster Irina Crush. I was the second to last man standing. I would have been the last man standing, but the last man standing was in the bathroom the whole time, and then after I lost, he came back out and lost immediately. So I should have been the last man standing, but the guy who was the last man standing was in the bathroom most of the time, so his game lasted longer than mine. So the chess club, so we formed the first chess team, and then we went to the Queen City Classic. I played in the championship section, but I ended up losing it because I had like 3 wins, 2 losses. It was a pretty tough tournament, the championship section. But my team managed to win 2nd place in the other division. So their 2nd place trophy, it's still on display at the chess tournament, at the chess club. They keep it sitting up by the windowsill. So I'm pretty glad that I left a decent impact on the school. I helped them build their first chess club. I helped them get a trophy. I helped them get more interested in studying chess and participating in tournaments. And I hope that Ben went on to become a powerful teacher as well. I think given the resources I gave to him and pointed out to him, he should be able to surpass my strength that I was when I was a senior. So I hope he ultimately became stronger than me so he could be a better teacher as well. That's the ultimate goal of any teacher. It's to get the student to one day have the resources to surpass you. So I hope he makes a better teacher in his senior year. And then we had college confusion once I left. So I wanted to be a chess master and chess coach, but there were no really majors for that, so I was pretty lost. I had to broaden my interests, so I looked into things like psychology, maybe sociology, maybe politics, maybe philosophy. So I looked into a whole bunch of different things. Wasn't really satisfied with any of them for a number of reasons. So I just kept practicing chess in the meantime, slowly raising my rating on leadchess.org. And I finished an associate degree, and I was ready to just jump right back into tournaments because I saw no point in continuing this school. So what I did is I worked at Kroger's while going to college, and then I just paid off my student debts, as I went along. I paid it all off immediately. So I went to tournaments. I played in a couple of them. I had like first place in one, second place in another, and then it all shut down because of COVID-19. So then yeah, that was pretty frustrating. Like just when I was getting back into it. So where do I stand now? My current rating is about 1900. I consistently have good results against candidate masters, but my rating is not caught up to my true strength because I haven't been playing in as many tournaments as I could be. This has to do like being busy at my job, maybe setting up my new job like as a chess teacher. So I clearly have the potential to be at least a life master if I keep playing in a lot more tournaments, and then my rating just gets caught up because I already have good results against candidate masters. So I'm currently working as a chess instructor as part of a chess in schools program. It's called the ProScan Fund. They raise some money for like breast cancer research, and part of their program is that they do chess in schools as well. So the ProScan Fund, I was pretty thrown off. Like, why is there a chess in schools program for like breast cancer? Like, what does that have to do with each other? But I didn't really understand it. But ultimately, I did want to be a chess teacher, so I went for it. I was looking for opportunities like that for a long time. I still have my leaguechess.org account, and I occasionally play on chess.com as well. In the future, I might try to reach the top 100 classical players again on leaguechess.org. Last time I got rated to about 2264. I made it to rank 116. So I almost made it to the top 100 classical players, and I might try again in the future. That would be some interesting videos to look at. And my best victories, maybe they can be explored another time because, well, they're pretty long and complicated, but I do have a lot of interesting games I'd like to share with you too. Like some of my games against titled players as well. They're pretty cool. And why do I continue playing chess? A few reasons I enjoy it is one, there's tense competition when you're playing against people who have a really good strategic understanding, and you do too. This is when the games get very interesting, very nuanced, and then you're both playing pretty high accuracy moves, but you're both trying to outdo each other, so the competition gets very tense, and that can be pretty fun. Secondly, there's peace. So chess can become a form of meditation when you focus and focus, and then it's like nothing else in the universe bothers you. It's like your mind shifts into a different state, and your brain starts working in ways that it doesn't normally work in. So you get into this real state of flow, and your mind is just working on the task at hand. Nothing else bothers you. So in that way, it's kind of peaceful. And outdoing myself is a pretty nice one too. Like sometimes I play really, really well, and I just look back at the game like, how did I figure that out? Like, how did I do that? So when you really get into a game, you can be surprised with what you can actually do. There's like maybe you can discover a queen sacrifice, maybe you can discover some really complicated combinations, maybe you can discover like a cool positional sacrifice. Like you can really outdo yourself when you really get into it, and you come up with all these really brilliant ideas. And since glory isn't everything, and you want to keep in mind the loneliness of being a chess player, so a trophy carries dust, but memories last forever. So that's a good quote. It's yes, I do have a lot of trophies and medals, but ultimately they end up in the basement. What memories, they're something that you can look back on and be proud of. So the trophy, it's just a reminder. The memories, they stay with you forever. So if you play chess, I hope that you get some really good memories, like going head to head with some tough players. Maybe you outdid yourself, and then you have some good memories. So there's like some kids at chess in schools when they felt like they were the dumb kid, but then they ended up beating a smart kid at chess, and then they feel like how did I do that? I outdid myself. Like I beat a really smart kid at chess. So I thought I was an idiot. So it can be pretty powerful. It can give you some nice memories. and that's more valuable than the trophy. It's more valuable than being the best. It's more valuable than being better than everyone else. It's the memories that give us something to look back on and be proud of. So that all said, I hope you have a good idea about why I got into chess, why I keep playing it, and how I grew a little bit along the way as a chess player. In the future, I hope to make more videos on how to understand emotions during chess, maybe play a couple of games of chess and explain my thinking. There's a lot of cool ideas I can do with this, but I hope you have a good understanding of my background, at least in terms of chess, and I hope you have some really good memories with chess. I hope you have fun. So have a good day.